Okay, so can you start off by telling me your name, your age, and your organization?
So my name is Diana Moreno. I am actually a staff person here at the University of Florida. I work for Hispanic Latino Affairs, serving as the program coordinator.
And who did you vote for, if you don't mind telling us?
I actually am unable to vote, unfortunately, since I am not a citizen of the United States. I'm a permanent resident of the United States, so I couldn't vote this election, which really was painful as somebody who follows politics closely and is passionate about social issues.
Right, so when you first found out that Donald Trump won the election, what was the first thing that you felt?
As somebody who serves a large portion of the Hispanic Latino community in the University of Florida, the first thing that I did think about was my undocumented students, those who are not, those who might suffer direct consequences and immediate consequences from a Trump presidency. So the first feeling was really worry and a little bit of fear, to be honest, for those students, just because this meant a lot of uncertainty in their lives and in the lives of their families. And I just remember, honestly, that's the first thing I thought about whenever it seemed inevitable that he would win. It's the lives of my students that would be the most impacted.
Right, and what are your thoughts on the recent protests and rallies that have been going on post-election?
Well, I think that there's a large part of the population, probably most of us, who just simply didn't expect the results that came down, and many people are reacting to a lot of rhetoric that they found very divisive and exclusive from the Trump campaign. And I can certainly speak to the fact that many Hispanic Latinos, specifically those who have an immigrant background, felt that way as well. So I think it is a natural reaction. Protest is a natural reaction of that. I do believe that college campuses specifically have such a strong history of protest and a strong history of social movement and building that, to be honest, I think has really been a great part of our democratic and free speech traditions in the United States. And so I honestly like that we are preserving that tradition at the University of Florida, because I do think it's important for students to be involved, and part of that involvement, whether it is through protest or whether it is through formal involvement, I think is important for the discourse of our democracy. However, I do think that it can be unproductive sometimes when there are no guidelines of that discussion, where there are no guidelines to that protest, so it becomes a sort of yelling match. And so that can sometimes just become a wasted energy for a lot of students. So I would certainly encourage students to direct that energy in a way that really can make an impact, and they can start from where they're at. From the organizations that they have an influence over, where they have a position, from the particular major that they're a part of, and from their discipline, to really find where they can really impact and have a voice in the issues that they care about. And if they do want to join a protest, to make sure that they're being safe, they're being civil, but they are exercising that freedom of speech that is honestly part of the reason why a lot of immigrants come to the United States.
So you were talking about how some protests can be kind of unproductive and tensions are really high right now. So as a member of the university community, what kind of solutions do you think that people can have on university campus to get that discourse flowing in a nonviolent way?
So I would certainly want to reassert that I believe protests can be very useful, and I'm not against them existing. I certainly think that the best way to have a protest is when you have a really strong group of student organizers that are strategic about their protests. So they have a strategic target or a strategic issue that they are protesting with, maybe a set of specific demands, right? So then it's not just like I'm angry, but it's like I'm angry at this and I'd like this to change. And so I think once that takes place, then protests really can be an avenue for grief or anger that actually turn into something productive, even if that is making that grief and anger public, because that is important sometimes. I do believe that as somebody who works also as an advisor for Gatorship, which is a leadership retreat that takes place every spring here at the university, we facilitate difficult dialogue in that retreat, and I think that one of the best ways for students to be able to have those tough conversations with their peers or with their families is to learn those dialoguing skills that allow you to talk across difference, because it's honestly the hardest thing that one can do, having those difficult conversations with people that you simply can't agree with. Sometimes sitting at the Thanksgiving table, which we're about to go on Thanksgiving break, and sitting across the table from someone who you really think that their vote diminished an aspect of your identity. If you identify as queer, if you're an immigrant, and somebody voted for Trump and you believe that their vote really diminished your identity, it's really difficult to have that conversation. But to be able to develop those skills of having that dialogue that's open, that's compassionate, and that's productive, I think that you can break those things down. And so I encourage folks to maybe learn that through applying to Gatorship, if you'd like to go on Gatorship, or simply through taking courses that the university offers about civil debate, civil discourse, or simply learning more about those social issues so that you can learn how to have those conversations in an informed way.